Hello everyone! In the last review, we took a look at the Mr. FPGA, but today we're gonna take a look at an emulation machine. This is the RG503 from Anbernic. It's a portable emulation device with an OLED screen that supposedly is the same model as the one used on a PlayStation Vita. In the box, along with the console, you'll get a user manual, an SD card already pre-installed with some games, and you get a glass screen protector too, which is quite nice. And finally, a USB Type-C cable for charging the device. The screen looks scratched, but it's just a plastic film covering the screen. On the top, you have an OTG port, a headphone jack, an HDMI output, and a USB or DC input for charging. On the underside, you have the speakers, two SD slots, one for the system and other for the games, a reset and function button. On the left side, there is a recessed power button. And on the right side, you have the volume buttons. And you have the Anbernic logo in the back. The ergonomics of this console is really good. The analog sticks are recessed, and this makes it easier to put on your pockets. The first thing you want to do when you get this device is install the screen protector. Now it looks much better. You can press the shoulder buttons in any point, and they're not hard to press either. The Dpad is pivoted in the center. When you press in the middle, you won't end up activating all of the directions. I was a bit worried about the analog sticks being recessed, but as you can see, they are just in the right height, and moving them around is not difficult at all. And you can press them too. The grip texture in the back also helps a lot when holding the console. When you're using the analog sticks, your fingers won't slip on the edges. Another thing that I noticed is that the back seems hollow at some points. This console is also super lightweight. With 245 grams, it's almost half the weight of the Nintendo Switch. Personally, I think that the Switch is a heavy console. If you're playing while laying on your bed, it gets really uncomfortable. But the RG503 feels like nothing. You could play this for hours without having any kind of discomfort. And with a single day of use, I noticed this design flaw here. Do you see this dust around the buttons? This is because the buttons are grinding against the shell. The buttons work well most of the time, but sometimes if you press the button on the edge, it'll get stuck. It won't happen every time, you really have to press it in an angle. This is a problem that might go away with time as the buttons grind more against the shell. but it would be better if this wasn't present to begin with. When you turn on the console, you'll immediately notice the sharp colors of the OLED screen, and you'll be greeted by these weird out-of-place Yoshi's Island music. Thankfully, you can disable it by pressing Start and going to Sound Settings, and disabling this option. Now it's much better. And you can see that it runs a lot of consoles. But we'll see how good they run in this device. When running the games, holding the function key in combination with other buttons will give you special access to some features. The B button brings up RetroArch menu. Up and down changes the volume. Left and right changes the save state slot. The right button saves the state and the L button loads it. The L2 activates the fast forward. The R2 activates the frame per second counter. Select won't do anything, and Start will bring you back to the main menu. I will try to show a close-up of the screen so you can see how the games look. And for that, I'm gonna use another controller. Since this device has Bluetooth, you can pair another controller. And yes, you can pair multiple controllers and hook it up to the TV and enjoy some games with your friends. By pressing Start, you will have access to the main menu. Here you can select some preset configurations. They will be enabled when you launch the games. Most of these configurations are already present in RetroArch. But for example, to change a core emulator for a particular console, you must enter this setting. You can also make many changes to the UI. Select how the games are displayed. And even change that main menu theme. The network settings here will be used for netplay. You can connect to other Anbernic devices or any other emulator running RetroArch and play multiplayer games. You can also stream with Moonlight. On system settings, you can change the languages available for the system. As you can see, the firmware is pretty basic. You have much more options for customizations in the RetroArch menu. Here's Mega Man X running on the Super Nintendo core. It's running at full speed with no slowdowns. If you look closely, the pixels are uneven. That's because this isn't an integer scaling. Can you see how distorted the health bar is? To fix this, you must enter the RetroArch menu by pressing Function and B. And under Video Options, you should go to Scaling and enable integer scaling. With this option, the screen will be slightly smaller, but the pixels will be even. And if you want an effect that looks like a CRT, you can go to Shaders, enable Video Shaders, and load this preset. When loaded, you should decrease the Shader 3 scale to 1x and apply the changes. Now the game will have perfect scan lines, just like on a CRT monitor. This is my recommended way to run the games. The games won't only run better, but look better with this configuration. If you don't like this smaller screen though, there is another option. You should enable bilinear filtering, and now the pixels are more even, but the graphics are blurrier. To reduce this blurriness, you can go to Video Filter and enable the normal 2x filter. Now you have even pixels and a slightly less blurry image. But as you can see, you will lose a little bit of performance. This is more noticeable on Yoshi's Island. Other games can run better with this configuration. As you can see here, Comic Zone runs very well. And if you want to use the CRT filters, you must have integer scaling enabled. If you don't have integer scaling, the scan lines will be displayed incorrectly. On Game Boy games though, you can have integer scaling off. The pixels are so big you won't notice the difference. Here's how it looks with the LCD filter. There is another option that you can use too, is the Simple Text LCD shader. I like this filter a lot. It has a background texture, which reminds me of those old monochrome display games. The same effects apply to the Game Boy Color too. And here I'm trying to run Super Mario 64, and as you can see, it doesn't look good. There are many graphical glitches and the lighting is wrong too. The game is playable though, despite the glitches. And I tried changing the emulator cores and the configurations, but it didn't work either. On the Nintendo DS, my controller wasn't accepted. I had to use the buttons on the console. The L2 and R2 buttons are used to change the screen layouts. It appears to be running well, but if you look carefully, you will see some drops in the performance. I tried to enter the settings, but the combination didn't work. And that's because this emulator is not RetroArch, you're using a drastic emulator here. And for this one, you have to just press the function button once. I tried messing with the settings, but as you can see here, the navigation is very bad. I can't select the options correctly. So I gave up and went to test another game. On Avalon code, the same problem persisted. And pay attention to this, whenever I press the button, the FPS goes back to normal. I'm not sure what's happening here, but as long as you keep pressing buttons, the performance will be good. You should use the right analog stick to touch the screen, but the pen is showing on the wrong screen here. So I wouldn't use this console to run DS games. It's playable, but it's not a good experience. The PlayStation Core though runs on RetroArch, and the performance is great. If you activate the CRT filters, it looks even better. Dreamcast performance is good. On Sonic Adventure 2, it has a bit of slowdowns in some areas, but overall it was playable.
Set me free, trust me and we will escape from this city. I'll make it through, prove it to you. Follow me. Danger is lurking around every turn. Trust your feet and got to live and learn. I know it's all the fate I'm waiting. Got no orders, only one thing to do. I don't care what you say. No time for guessing. This game of tag is boring. I'm out of here. Finally decided to show up, eh? Okay, bring it on.
Bigfoot reporting to headquarters. Intruder has been located.
I was amazed to see Shenmue running perfectly in this console.
Why? What you gonna do? Ryo-san, where are you going? You're not going after them. Please don't. Look what they did to Hazuki-sensei.
They killed my father, right in front of me. I will have my revenge. I need to do this for my father.
Even in the open areas, with lots of buildings to render, it didn't have a single slowdown.
Hey, Joe!
Hi, Megumi. You got a kitten in there?
You promise not to tell my mommy?
Sure.
Okay, then I'll show you.
Is this your kitten?
But this kitty, see? She's all alone.
All alone?
Yep. See, the other day, when it rained, a car ran over her mommy. My big sister saw it. She said it was a big black car.
A black car?
Yeah, and she said it was really scary.
If you're playing arcade games, you can use the full screen with minimal distortions. And with integer scaling, you'll still have a wide screen. But the graphics will look much better with a CRT filter. But here is where this console really shines. The screen is the perfect aspect ratio for Game Boy Advance games. With the LCD filter, the graphics looks almost exactly like on a real Game Boy Advance. And since we had the Game Boy Advance on, I did a lag test. As expected, you have a tiny bit of delay from the original hardware. And enabling run ahead to reduce lag will affect the performance. But despite that, if you want this console to play Game Boy Advance games, I'll say go for it. The huge OLED screen will make the games look amazing in this console. And integer scaling didn't make much of a difference here. You can notice a slight distortion, but it really didn't bother me as much as the games in the Super Nintendo core. But if you really want those even pixels, you can activate integer scaling with no problems. The simple text filter also works well in this core, with no drops in performance. Psp games runs really well, with double the resolution. Since this is a PlayStation Vita screen, this console is perfect to play Psp games. The Castlevania remake runs very well too. Some games like Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker will show some glitches. Despite the glitches, the performance was pretty good, no slowdowns. Let's move to the Dpad test using the button tester software. And I can say that this Dpad is very good. The diagonals are easy to access in any direction, so playing any 2D game will be a pleasant experience. I can't say the same for the analog sticks though. They have the disease that snap the analog stick to the axis. This makes gameplay of 3D games, shooters, and anything that requires precision a nightmare. I don't know why, but other reviewers never show this. This is something that is easily solved with a firmware update, and Anbernic doesn't fix this because nobody shows this problem. I did a little research, and it is present on past consoles from Anbernic too. In fact, this problem is so annoying that on Sonic Adventure 2 I can't get Sonic to run in a straight line. Since the stick snaps to the top, and in this emulator the top is slightly misaligned, you can never run in a straight line. Another thing to test is the HDMI output. You should plug the HDMI before turning on the console. And as you can see here, it's running perfectly. The input lag is acceptable and the image quality is good. But for some reason, when I plug it in a 4K TV, I get a much higher input lag. It's so bad that the game isn't playable. So when using it on a TV, you must pay attention to the resolution. I tried messing with the configurations too, but as you've seen before, the firmware is very simple and there is no other video options. In my videos I always do a teardown, but the RG503 have different screws and I don't have the screw bits for this one. But Taki Udon did a teardown of this device and I'll be showing his images. You can see that the rumble motor is here and it's easily replaceable. The same goes for the shoulder button switches. And the analog sticks are modular. You have a 3500 mAh battery. And it's pretty small. I'm sure you can get a bigger battery and install it. On this other teardown, you can see that the sticks are the same style of a Nintendo Switch. The button contacts are golden, and if you look at the screen, it is indeed the same model of a PS Vita. So if you happen to damage your screen in the future, you can easily buy a replacement and change it. And here are my final thoughts. To be fair, I'm on the fence with the RG503. On one side, you have a device that don't look very good to play 4x3 games. You will lose a lot of screen space when you enable integer scaling. But on the other hand, it is just perfect to play Gameboy Advance, arcade games and PSP. You have a console that is easy to repair, but have flaws in the face buttons and analog sticks. It has Bluetooth and 5 GHz Wi-Fi, which makes it great for streaming games, but the performance on Nintendo 64 and Nintendo DS is lacking. There are a lot of good points, but a lot of bad points too. In the end, it's up to the user to decide. Are the bad points a deal breaker for you, or you don't mind them at all? Leave your opinions in the comments and subscribe to the channel if you want to help me out. As always, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.